There is no doubt that the power balance in tech can change at any time. Right now, Apple is the world's most valuable company by market cap, but the company posted shockingly weak earnings this month, partly because of its recent problems in China. The trouble started in October, when workers began fleeing the world's biggest iPhone factory over a COVID outbreak. Ran by Foxconn, the factory was very short on staff and offered bonuses to workers to return. But violent protests broke out in November, when newly hired staff said management had reneged on their promises. Workers clashed with security officers, before the company eventually offered them cash to quit and leave the site. While operations have now returned to normal, the supply problems hit the iPhone 14 Pro and iPhone 14 Pro Max models during the key holiday shopping season. Demand for iPhone 14 units during the Black Friday holiday weekend was much higher than supply. On top of that, US-China relations are looking increasingly tense. Last year, the Biden administration banned Chinese companies from buying advanced chips and chip-making equipment without a license. Apple makes nearly 95% of its phones in China, but with all the problems hitting the country, it makes sense that Apple is now trying to diversify their supply operations. In 2018, Samsung opened what it called the world's largest mobile factory in Noida, an Indian city. Analysts say the company may have paved the way for other manufacturers. Apple is vigorously planning to shift its production sites outside of China and has started making many of its new iPhone devices in India. According to India's trade minister, Apple is targeting to increase its global iPhone supplies in India to about 25%. They may be doing the shift slow because they for sure do not want to anger Xi Jinping. The tech giant is in a particularly difficult position. For years, China has been where most of Apple products are assembled, and China is also Apple's second largest market, behind only the United States. The company is therefore undoubtedly vulnerable to Chinese escalation. Experts say Apple should have been diversifying their iPhone manufacturing years ago. India may be the best country for it. Some of Apple's biggest contractors are already pumping more money into India. Last year, Foxconn announced it had invested $500 million in its Indian subsidiary. CEO Tim Cook said India is a hugely exciting market and a major focus for Apple. India is set to overtake China this year to become the world's most populous country. The country is well positioned geoeconomically and geopolitically to create and provide globally skilled workforce due to certain competitive advantages in science, technology, and engineering. India's massive and cheap labor force is a big draw for manufacturers. Almost half its population of 1.4 billion is of working age. Specialization is key to success and will also determine employability of the youth, who form India's demographic dividend. The expansion of higher education has created a larger skilled talent pool, but it still only amounts to about 10% of the country's overall labor market. Companies seeking skilled labor need to be prepared to compete to recruit these skilled workers. Information technology and manufacturing are the two most prominent sectors in India's organized economy. They receive the bulk of foreign investment and are the biggest employers. Proximity to large urban cities allows companies to tap into skilled talent located nearby, while also reducing operational costs. As Asia's third largest economy, India also offers a growing domestic market. In 2023, as global recession fears persist, India is expected to remain the fastest growing major economy in the world. While there are significant obstacles in India's ambition to deepen its relationship with Apple, doing so is a huge boost for the country and Prime Minister Modi. Growing manufacturing ties with a US giant like Apple will definitely attract other global players in the manufacturing ecosystem to India. As for Apple, if it wants to rely far less on China, it can certainly do it. The world's most valuable company is a sharp and savvy supply chain operator. Before Tim Cook took over at Apple in 2011, he spent a decade managing its logistics, including shutting down Apple-owned factories and replacing them with contractors that make up Apple's modern supply chain. Shifting away from China will require Apple to sacrifice time and money on a long-term project involving hundreds of moving parts, but it may all be worth it. The reality is that the global manufacturing sector has been rocked in the past 2 years, and many CEOs are determined not to be caught out by supply chain disruption again.